I'm 36, and my wife, who's 38, and we have been together for over 16 years. Guess what? She's planning to ditch me when the new year rings in. So here's the scoop. This morning, she heads out for her yearly Christmas spa day with her girlfriends. Meanwhile, I'm being an awesome dad, taking our two sons, aged 16 and 14, on a Christmas shopping adventure, making it a total boys' day out. But get this. Shortly after she leaves, she calls me in a panic, saying she forgot her fancy brand credit card. And she's like, "Can you please bring it over to the spa? They've got this crazy deal going on with the brand. Can you believe that?" Okay, so get this. I'm thinking it's no big deal to grab the card for her, right? We weren't too far from home, so I head to her desk to fetch it from the drawer. But guess what I find instead? A stack of papers from a family law solicitor. Yeah, you heard that right. I'm just starting to figure out what they are when, bam, she calls again. This time she's like, "Oh, never mind, I found it in my purse." Total lie, obviously, because I'm staring right at it in the desk. She tells me not to worry about it and just have fun with the boys. So I read the papers. I don't know what I thought, but could not resist reading them. We don't keep secrets from each other. I know this was wrong. And they were her papers on her desk. And I should have kept my nose out. But it wasn't our solicitor. From what I've read, she is intending to serve divorce papers on me on the 4th of January, asking me to move out of the family home and want sole custody of the boy. Since then, I've opened her email and iMessage accounts, and she's been planning this for months. There's no one else involved, as far as I can tell, but she is signing unreasonable behavior by me because it will be the quickest route. We learn about the same. Hers is more this year because of a bigger firm-wide bonus, and the boys' school fees are taken care of by her parents, so she's banking on it being quick and easy. All right, so here's where it gets wild. I quickly scan all those papers and emails, turning them into PDFs and saving them onto my account. But now I'm like, what do I do next? I'm totally clueless. We went on with our day, doing the shopping thing with the boys, and even kept up with our tradition of having crepes. And now they're totally engrossed in watching Star Wars again. Good thing I already saw it with them on Thursday, super early in the morning, so I had the perfect excuse to sneak away and try to figure this whole mess out. I'm in a coffee shop trying to work out what to do next. I think I'll try to keep it as normal as possible for them. We have a load of things to do today, so we'll continue with all that. But really don't know what to say to my wife when we get home. My instinct is to say nothing at calm and wait till I've seen a solicitor on Monday, but I'm not sure I can keep it up that long. Or I could get my mom to call and I could head up to her, which would take me out of the house for the rest of the weekend. Christmas is FCAT op, in my opinion. I would say your gut feeling about acting calm and not doing anything until you talk to a lawyer is the best way to go. I'm pretty sure by now that you know that your marriage has no way of surviving this because she has been planning this for months. So this isn't just a spare moment, a passionate kind of decision. She's thought about this. She's planned this out and she's planning to railroad you after Christmas. Her little mishap has shown you her true colors. Okay, dude, think of this as your golden opportunity to gear up for what's coming. When she finally serves you those papers, you'll be super prepared. Now, I'm no expert on the legal stuff. That's what lawyers are for, right? But here's the deal. Until you get some solid advice from your attorney, play it cool. Don't let on that you know anything. Just act totally normal. Keeping things under wraps is key here. Stay on your toes and be ready for whatever comes next. Or at least that's what I would try to do if I was in a horrible situation like you are right now. Now, for the comments, Teresa, Jesus says, go through the house and make copies of all financial documents possible, bank statements, pay stuff, retirement investments, everything you can find. You need to get a good lawyer, one who will fight for your rights without needlessly jacking up the costs. Ask your lawyer for advice. It may be detrimental to you for her to claim unreasonable behavior on your part. You may need to dispute that in some way. Also, you should not just roll over on either the custody or house. If she wants the house, she should buy out your equity in it. If she can't afford to do that, then ask for the house to be sold. And the proceeds split. As I said, talk to your lawyer. As a general rule, being the reasonable partner who wants to split everything evenly is a reasonable approach. If you don't already, you'll want to have a bank account in only your name and you'll want some cash in that account. Talk to your lawyer. But a good second step after seeing the lawyer would be to take half of every dollar in joint accounts and put it into accounts in just your name. Here's a strategic move for you. Start redirecting your paychecks into accounts that are only in your name. Sure, this might tip her off that you're onto something, but it's way better to have your cash secure and accessible. And about your response? It's smart that you've already scanned and backed up all the financial stuff to a server. Having separate personal accounts and a joint account for household expenses, where you both contribute equally, is a good setup. Keeping everything else in your individual names is a solid plan. This way, you've got a clear line on what's yours and what's shared. We've never shared finances in that way. How to do it says, quote, or I could get my mom to call and I could head up to her, which would take me out of the house for the rest of the weekend. Your wife called you the second time and lied because she realized that sending you to look through her desk for her credit card might reveal what she's planning. You really don't want her to know that, you know. If you don't think you can fake it for the weekend, then think of a super plausible reason. Your mother would want you to spend time at her place until Monday. Once there, use your time wisely. Research lawyers, write down questions. Decide how you want this divorce to go down because it seems like your wife is set on it. Talk to a lawyer as soon as you can. Monday, no matter the costs. Hope for the best. Plan for the worst. I wouldn't bring up divorce to her. Just have everything ready in the event that she does so you can immediately respond and have protected yourself till actual shackle says. She called to ask you to find the credit card, then made a huge mistake, and then called back to lie to you when that she already had. Then she probably knows that you know about the papers now, and it won't be a surprise. The worst kind anymore, which may move up her timeline on pulling out money or assets. I'd be careful. Edit, I've got no intentions of leaving. It's my effing house. I designed it and I built it. She can piss off and use the flat in town where she spends most of the week anyway. And in case you're wondering, we live in both places. London is horrible to bring up kids, and you have to have a weekend place to get any space. I spend as much time in town during the week when the boys aren't around, so we see each other most days. We both use the flat during term time. Just come back to Dorset at weekends and holidays with the boys. The boys are at boarding school most of the year, and I'm usually in Dorset during the holidays unless we're traveling. I was totally blindsided by this. I had no clue she wanted out. It's a massive shock. We even went through couples therapy last year, and the counselor gave us the green light, saying we could make our marriage work. Now I'm wondering if she made up her mind to leave back then and has been planning this move ever since. She didn't show any sign of tension when she got back, and hasn't set foot in the office apart from dropping her back. She tries to be very controlling, but I have always stood up to her in her job. She's the boss, and everyone jumps to her every whim. She was made a managing director 3 years ago, and it's been worse since then. Opie's at. So I've calmed down a little and am more rational now. I won't trash her passport or do anything rash, like employ a personal investigator, a visual audio recording, bug the flat, or serve her papers on Christmas morning. I will be having a meeting with my solicitor first thing tomorrow. I'm playing golf with him. Just happens to be at the clubhouse and not the course. We weren't counseling before because she did not like the fact I wouldn't bend to her will. She's a bully in almost all aspects of her life. But I never let her get away with it, which I guess is why she married me, as I was the first person to stand up to her. We started counseling after she crashed my car and feigned injury to stop me from doing a job in Dubai for 3 months because it clashed with school holidays and she couldn't afford the time to look after the boys. She's got this high-stress, long-hours job in corporate law, and getting back to Dorset regularly is pretty much impossible for her. We tried making a full-time go of it in London, but it just wasn't right for the boys. So she's in London most nights, especially during the term. That's why I had to meet with the solicitor this morning, along with his team, after going through all her papers. It's a tricky situation, but I'm doing what I need to do. He thought it was serious enough to bring in some specialist help. Basically, she's going to try to ambush me on everything and expects to win. Her words in an email she sent because she's so well prepared. It's her style and feels to them like it's been planned, like a hostile takeover. Their advice is to do nothing outwardly, but get totally prepared for the moment. She makes her move, have papers ready to give to her, and simultaneously send to her solicitors. As soon as she tells me. In the house. Because the flat is worth more than the house. She needs to establish sole custody to be able to get the house to provide stability for the boy. Well, that's not going to happen. So for me, it's now time to hunker down, enjoy Christmas with the boys, then head off skiing, knowing that everything is being done in the UK that can be ready for when she drops the bomb, and then realizes I'm already in a bunker miles away. If that isn't too much of a mixed metaphor update, so Christmas came and went. Everything was normal. Apart from her father being extra snarky about everything and the two of them getting very drunk and plotting together on Christmas Eve. We went off skiing as planned, and that went pretty much as normal. My soon-to-be ex spent more time away from the group, skiing on our own shopping or at the spa, and this was commented on by a few of our friends. We've been more physically intimate than usual lately, but I can't really call it making love anymore. It's been way more intense and primal than ever before. It feels like we're both just in it for our own needs, not really connecting with each other. Even our older son picked up on the change in our dynamic. He asked about it, but I just brushed it off, saying it's because January is going to be a hectic month with lots of changes. Cut to Sunday brunch. Her parents were around as normal, plus my brother and wife. We had all been to church together. Soon to be ex and her father disappeared into the office. When we got back, as I prepared food with the boys and her mother, we sat down, and after about 10 minutes of silence from soon to be ex, she said she has something to say to us all in front of the boys, and without speaking to me first, she announced that we no longer loved each other. We had tried to resolve the issues, but I was unwilling to compromise, and that we had decided to get divorced, and that I would be moving out after the boys had returned to school. She then went into a spiel with the boys about how it was nothing to do with them, how she loved them just as much as she always has, and that mommy and daddy had been drifting apart for years, and that now was the right time to divorce for her. I sat silently and tried my hardest not to react. I wanted to throw everything on the table at her, including all the knives, but didn't. The only thing I did was hold my youngest son's hand. Once she had finished, I calmly suggested that perhaps the boys would like to go into the den with my brother and their grandparents, while I spoke to mom alone. I then started to get up and go to the office to get out the paper pack that my lawyer had prepared. Her father then shouted at me that I was a coward walking away and I should face my wife like a man. I tried my hardest to be civil, but ended up telling him to FK off out of my house. The argument got really heated, with insults flying back and forth. He just kept pushing, accusing me of being a lousy husband, a terrible father, a failure in business, basically labeling me as the worst of the worst. He even said the only reason I was allowed to marry his daughter was that I got her pregnant, and he didn't want a bastard in the family. He went on to say that I've just been dragging her down, ruining her career and her life. It was a brutal exchange. She just stood behind him crying. I was boiling by this point, so told them that I had known about their little plan for a while, had already had divorce papers drawn up on my own terms, and they were in for a rude awakening if they thought I was just going to roll over and give in to everything they demanded. Though it probably came out laden with expletives, the situation then got really nasty when the soon-to-be ex was in tears and shouting about how I was upsetting the boy and that I should just leave now. Her father shouting obscenities about me and my family, and her mother just in tears, telling me to just leave and let them sort it out. I wouldn't leave, and her father got really angry, then punched me in the face, knocking me down. My brother got between us and his wife called the police. The boys also got involved and pulled her father off me, but not before he kicked me a couple of times. I'm not small, but the punching kicks really knocked me about. The only thing I can say is that I didn't hit back at all, once he realized I wasn't going to fight back. He retreated with his daughter into her office. I went into the lounge and with my brother, comforted the boys who were distraught when the police and the paramedics arrived. My brother, who is a police officer himself, talked to them. After the confrontation, the police took statements from both of us and then escorted my father-in-law off the premises. They suggested that it might be best for me to leave the house too, but by that time I'd already spoken with the duty solicitor from my law firm. They talked to the police and made it clear that I wouldn't be leaving. Instead, I headed to the hospital to get my injuries checked out. Broken nose and cracked ribs sorted, and when I came back at about 7 p.m., my wife had left for London, and her mother and my sister-in-law were with the boy. They were pretty upset, but mostly about the fight known as splitting up. Both of them want to stay home this week and commute to school so I can talk to them properly when they are back tonight. They were both really quiet this morning, and my sister-in-law drove them to school. She teaches there. I didn't really sleep much, so went back to bed after the boys had gone, and woke to a terse email from my soon-to-be ex, giving a list of demands that she would have given me the day before if I'd been more reasonable, and complaining that my solicitors had already contacted her before we had a chance to talk about what she wanted. So, the divorce went through, and now I'm among the many who are kicking off the new year newly single. Her father really didn't do her any favors. She was counting on her parents to look after the boys during holidays when she was working, but that's off the table now. Given his violent behavior, there's no way he can be trusted with the kids. This whole situation has really messed up her chances of getting sole custody. In any case, I've already asked her to CC my solicitor's office and everything she sends me and everything. I'll send a CC ad to them, and I've already had a conversation with the lawyers about fees, so I'm not too worried. It's going to cost me upwards of £150,000, but in the long term it's worth it. This is not going to go as unopposed as she assumed. Big wake-up coming for her. There are no medical bills in the UK. It's a free NHS, and charges will be down to the police and CPS. I know he was interviewed under caution today, then arrested and released on police bail. So I can only assume that he'll be charged at some point once the CPS have talked to me. I've given an official statement, and my brother believes they might actually prosecute, considering the bones were broken. It's likely her father will receive a caution or be bound over to keep the peace. It's doubtful it will escalate beyond that. Naturally, we filed a restraining order against him. Right now, I'm waiting for the locksmith to arrive to change the locks on the house since he has a key. It's important to ensure our safety and security in this situation. We are waiting on her solicitors to tell us if she wants to continue to reside here whilst the divorce is resolved. At the moment, she's in London and then New York for the week. My soon-to-be ex is totally a daddy's girl, this princess to whom he could never say no. He never thought I was good enough for his daughter. We met when I was working as a builder's, made it my dad's firm. He never got past that. Even though I went to a better public school than she did, got a much better degree. And now I'm a managing partner of a leading engineering consultancy. To him, I'll always be the builder who left his daughter and forced her into a shotgun wedding. I was a student when I got her pregnant and built just about everything up from scratch. My parents are wealthy, but I've never had a penny from either of them since leaving school. In case you're curious, here are the demands I got in the email for sole custody, both house and flat. I will move out within a week. An uncontested divorce, all joint assets. Half of my assets with no mention of her assets, which are at least equal to mine. £75,000 per year to support the kids, including hiring a full-time housekeeper to maintain the house £15,000 per year, and school fees to pay for university for both boys, access to my partnership accounts, and full disclosure of all upcoming and pipeline deals. She's demanding a detailed list of individual items in the settlement, which includes most of my prized first edition books and all my Lewis Carroll editions with autographs, among various other things. And then there's my business. She basically expects me to turn into a cash cow for her. I'm starting to suspect that her father's money is dwindling, and she's realized she can't maintain her lifestyle without it. We've always kept our accounts and finances separate, but now it seems like she's trying to claim a stake in my assets, just sharing the common expenses. But she spends way more than she earns, and always has. Her inherited assets are all tied up in land and property, so she won't be very liquid. In any case, the calculations that my solicitors have done say it's a zero net. So if there is no child support, then she will keep all of her money. I will keep all of mine, and we part when it comes down to it. She's peaked, and Daddy isn't as rich as he makes out to be. The firm is still growing, so next year I could draw 10 times what she makes if I wanted to. So she's banking on future earnings to get a good settlement. Now, also, she didn't offer any concessions, only that her father may continue to pay the school fees. If I agree to cooperate, they're offering me some time to move my office out of the house, in exchange for a quick transfer of assets. But honestly, I don't see any winners emerging from this situation, only losers. If she had just come to me directly and said she wanted a divorce, I wouldn't have stood in her way. Initiating a divorce isn't something I would have chosen, but I would have respected her decision and proceeded amicably. But I'll want to get out of this as cheaply as I can and move on. We should have gotten divorced last year when we went through counseling, and she would not accept that there was anything wrong with the way she treated me. I thought it was best to stay for the boys. How wrong I was. Once I knew she was planning divorce, I knew it would get pretty horrid pretty quickly as she's very vindictive. I spent a lot of time talking with my boys last night. They're really upset and traumatized by what happened on Sunday. I was pretty roughed up, and they saw that. Last night, they were very subdued, and this morning they were incredibly quiet. I'm planning to see them at 7 tonight to talk more. My sister-in-law told me that they've been very quiet at school today as well. It's clear this whole situation is weighing heavily on them. It's not surprising, really. Their mom has been in contact with them a lot, painting a negative picture of me and telling them that their grandpa still loves them, but it's me who's preventing him from seeing them. Given all this, I'll talk to the school about arranging some time with a counselor for them. It's important they have their own space to talk and process everything that's happening. They need a neutral environment where they can express their feelings and thoughts freely. I am a man who is 49 years old. I have been married to my wife, Karen, who is 47 years old, for a very long time, 22 years to tell you exactly. We have 3 children together. Our first child, a daughter named Olivia, is 23 years old. Our second child, a son named Adam, is 20 years old. And our youngest child, another daughter named Sarah, is nearly 18 years old. Not long ago, Karen told me something very upsetting. She said she has been unfaithful to me. She has been seeing another man from her work. This man's name is Sam, and he is 27 years old. I'm using made-up names here for privacy. About a week ago, Karen had a serious talk with me. She explained that she had been seeing Sam for the past 2 years. She felt that now was the right moment to let me know, and to get more serious with him. Our children are all nearly adults now, with Sarah about to turn 18 in just 2 months. Karen thought it was the best time to share this with me. Hearing this news broke my heart. I'm grateful our kids weren't there to witness how upset I got. I cried a lot and couldn't control my emotions. It's good they didn't see me like that. It would have been hard for them. Olivia already left home for a job after finishing college. Adam is at college and Sarah was at a friend's house on that day. This meant Karen and I were alone at home, which I think is why she chose that day to tell me everything. She tried to make me feel better while I cried and asked her not to go, hoping we could try to fix our marriage. However, she said she couldn't stay with me anymore. She felt like staying would be wasting her time in a marriage without love. Everything I knew was flipped upside down that day. My first reaction was to try to convince her to stay, not wanting to believe what she was saying. I hope no one will judge me for this. It was a very tough moment for me. I cried for a long time before I started to accept the situation and calmed down. All through our talk, Karen was trying to comfort me. She kept touching my arm and telling me things would get better, that I'd find someone else. She treated me more like a sad little dog than her husband of 23 years, whom she had been unfaithful to and was now leaving. When I finally managed to stop crying and pull myself together, I got up and asked her to leave our home. I didn't want her there when the kids returned. Karen looked really surprised when I changed from pleading with her to stay to telling her she had to go. I was surprised at myself too, but I said it anyway. If Karen wanted to say something back, she didn't. She just left quietly. She grabbed a few things and put them in a duffel bag she had already packed, which made me realize she had been planning to leave all along. Then, she tried to give me a kind of half-hearted hug, but I couldn't hug her back. I just stood there, not moving. After Karen walked out, I spent the next few hours crying nonstop until Sarah got home. I felt completely broken. My marriage was over, and I didn't know what to do next. The person who meant everything to me, the one I cherished more than my own life, had been betraying me. For an entire 2 years, she was involved with someone else, and when she finally opened up about it, she didn't even seem to acknowledge the severity of her actions. It was as though she didn't see anything wrong in what she had done. In the moments following her confession, she maintained a demeanor that suggested it was all trivial, perhaps attempting to offer comfort out of a sense of guilt or unease rather than genuine remorse. There I was, left to grapple with my emotions, drowning in tears while she sat beside me, engulfed in silence. My mind was a battleground, with thoughts and memories clashing in an unending chaos. Despite the turmoil, a week has passed since that day, and I find myself in a marginally better place emotionally. I've been holding on, piecing myself back together bit by bit, primarily for the sake of my children. They too are reeling from this revelation, blindsided by the reality of our fractured family. On the day Karen decided to leave, Sarah returned home to find me in a state of disarray, sprawled out on the couch in a fitful sleep. Upon waking, the evidence of my sorrow was unmistakable. My eyes, red and swollen from crying, betrayed the pain I had been trying to conceal. Sarah, perceptive and concerned, pressed me for answers, inquiring repeatedly about her mother's whereabouts and the reason behind my distress. I hesitated to divulge the truth, knowing that voicing the facts would cement them into reality, a reality I was not ready to face. The prospect of breaking down once more in front of my daughter held me back, but the weight of the situation left me with no choice but to share the painful truth eventually. The act of speaking the words aloud made the situation all too real, and I braced myself for the emotional toll it would take on both of us. I finally shared the truth with Sarah, and as expected, I started crying again. It was a bit embarrassing to break down like that, but Sarah was there for me. She really cared and wanted to help. She was just as surprised and upset as I was when I first heard the news. At that time, my mind was all over the place, and I hadn't told anyone else what had happened. But then, Sarah took action. She picked up the phone and called her brother and sister, telling them they needed to come home as soon as possible. She also reached out to her uncle, my brother Eric, to let him know what was going on and that we needed his support. Eric is 45 years old, and he's chosen to stay single. He's always been a reliable and strong person, someone I knew I could depend on in tough times. True to his nature, Eric arrived at our house just a few hours after Sarah had called him, even though he lives quite a distance away. He understood that I needed some time to process the end of my marriage and everything that was happening in my life. So, he decided to stay with us for a while to help out. It's been a week since then, and Eric, along with all my children, are still here with me. We're all trying to get through this difficult time together, trying to understand and accept what's happened. It still feels like we're stuck in a bad dream that we can't wake up from. I never imagined that Karen leaving would affect me and my mental health so much. Having Eric around has been a huge help. I've been feeling really lost since Karen left, struggling to find the strength to even get out of bed in the mornings. Eric's decision to stay with us has been a blessing. His presence has been a guiding light in these dark times. So, I've come to realize that I really do need all the help I can get right now. My children have been incredibly supportive and kind, which I'm very grateful for. I've also been talking to my lawyer to get ready for the divorce that's going to happen. I haven't actually started the divorce process myself because I was expecting Karen to do it first. It seemed odd that she hadn't done it yet. But last night, I finally found out why she hasn't filed for divorce. Although she told me she was leaving, I hadn't heard from her since she walked out. So it was really surprising when she called me out of nowhere, almost a week later. When I picked up the phone, I could tell immediately that something was wrong. Karen sounded really upset, and it was obvious she had been crying. She asked how the kids were, and I told her they were all here with me, including my brother. I tried to sound as neutral as possible because I didn't want her to realize I still cared about her. Despite my efforts to keep my feelings hidden, I couldn't help but care. But I kept my responses short and to the point. Then, unexpectedly, Karen started to cry over the phone. This caught me off guard. I hadn't expected her to break down like that. After all, she was the one who had been unfaithful and then decided to leave. It didn't seem to make sense that she would be the one crying. I found myself unable to ignore her distress, and before I realized it, I had asked Karen if she was okay. That's when she shared with me a shocking update. She told me that on the day she left our home, she had gone to Sam, expecting to move in with him, but Sam had rejected her. He made it clear that he was not looking for a serious relationship and had been merely enjoying the moment with her. He told Karen directly that he was still young and wanted to experience as much as possible before settling down. Karen, despite being an attractive woman for her age, is 50 years old and a mother to 3 children. Sam expressed that this did not align with his vision of an ideal partner for the future. He mentioned wanting children and a long future with whomever he ends up marrying. Given Karen's age, he felt that a future together was not something she could offer him, leading him to conclude that they should not pursue a serious relationship or live together. So Sam was not ready for a committed relationship, and even if he were, he would not choose to have it with Karen. Now, Karen found herself in a crisis, realizing the gravity of her situation. She was devastated, crying on the phone to me for about 15 minutes, acknowledging the huge mistake she had made with the affair. She also mentioned that our children were refusing to communicate with her. They had all blocked her on every platform and had not spoken to her since. She had been staying in a hotel for the past week, uncertain if I would be willing to take her back and too scared to ask. Her call to me was a moment of desperation, not knowing what else to do. Clearly, Karen couldn't stay in a hotel indefinitely. She reached out to me, hoping I would allow her to move back in and give her another chance. I was astonished by her boldness to even suggest such a thing. In a sommer of seconds, any worry or sadness I felt vanished, replaced by a strong sense of anger that, frankly, should have surfaced much sooner. I didn't hesitate to tell her there would be no second chances. She hadn't offered me one, and I felt a sense of justice knowing she was facing the consequences of her actions. I ended the call without waiting for her response and turned off my phone, eager to escape the turmoil and find some rest. The audacity of her request infuriated me. After everything she had done, she thought she could return and I would mend everything as I had always done. Our marriage had seen plenty of challenges, as is typical for any long-term relationship. I had always been the one to try to smooth over disagreements, often without receiving an apology from her. It was always me making the effort to reconcile, even when I wasn't at fault. But I had reached my limit. This betrayal was something I could not and did not want to overlook. It served as the stark realization I needed. My love for Karen had always been greater than hers for me, and far beyond what she deserved. That's where I draw the line. I believe I haven't done anything wrong by asking her to leave and denying her the chance to return. After all, the house is legally mine, as I was the one who purchased it. It belongs to me and she has no right to demand to live there. However, she's been trying to twist the situation, making me feel as if I'm being harsh towards her. When I turned my phone back on this morning, I discovered a bunch of messages from her, sent after our call last night. She was upset and portrayed herself as the victim, accusing me of being selfish and not considering her feelings. It's bewildering to hear such accusations from someone who betrayed our marriage. She's also falsely claiming that I've turned our children against her. I was unaware they had blocked her or refused to communicate until she mentioned it. Therefore, I don't see how I could be responsible for their actions. Honestly, I can't find any reason to blame myself for the current situation. Although anger might be influencing my thoughts, it seems absurd that she's calling me selfish for not wanting to salvage our marriage after her affair, especially considering she only reached out to me after being rejected by the person she left us for. I strongly feel I'm not in the wrong here, but I also want to ensure I'm not acting out of spite or being unnecessarily harsh. So I'm seeking your opinions, Reddit users, on refusing to let my wife return after her infidelity. Update. Hey everyone. First off, I want to express my deep gratitude to all of you who took the time to reply to my initial post. Right. But after hearing from all of you and giving it a lot of thought, I've realized how much Karen's actions have been manipulating me. She made me doubt my own feelings and decisions about not letting her back into my home and life. I was actually close to second-guessing myself and might have given in if I hadn't reached out for advice here. To everyone who took the time to respond, I can't thank you enough. Your support has been invaluable. It's helped me see the situation for what it truly is and prevented me from falling back into a cycle of unhappiness and distrust. If I had chosen to forgive Karen and try again, I'm certain it would have only led to more pain and regret. Now, I feel much more grounded in my decision. Karen doesn't deserve another chance, not after everything that's happened. Since my last post, Karen has been relentless. She sent numerous texts, attempting to convince me to reconsider, using guilt and manipulation as her main strategies. She keeps apologizing, claiming she realizes the enormity of her mistake in having an affair and promising to do everything in her power to make amends. However, the clarity I've gained from this experience, bolstered by the perspectives shared by this community, has shown me the truth. I'm moving forward, free from the doubt that Karen's manipulation had cast over me. Karen's belief that there's a chance for us to reconcile puzzles me, especially considering the gravity of her actions. This isn't a minor disagreement that can be easily resolved. Her affair has caused deep wounds, and it seems she hasn't fully grasped the extent of the damage she's inflicted. I'm skeptical she'll ever truly understand the pain she's caused. Thankfully, I'm starting to feel better, which has allowed me to encourage Olivia and Adam to return to their regular routines. Sarah is still with me, offering her support, which I find comforting. I've made it clear to her, though, that she shouldn't feel obligated to stay by my side. I want her to enjoy her life, spend time with friends, and pursue happiness, despite the challenging circumstances we're facing. It's important to me that this difficult period doesn't prevent her from living her life to the fullest. She's planning to leave for college in the fall, and I'm eager to make the most of the time we have together before then. My brother is still staying with us, and his presence has been a tremendous help. While I've talked a lot about how Karen's departure has affected me emotionally, it's also changed the practical aspects of our daily life. There are small, everyday reminders of her absence, which might seem trivial, but consistently bring to mind the reality of our situation. With Karen no longer around, there's been a noticeable gap in handling household chores, particularly because she was the one who usually took care of the laundry and cooking, tasks she claimed to enjoy. The rest of us focused on keeping the house tidy, managing the trash, and washing the dishes. Now, with Karen gone, Eric and I have had to step up to fill these roles, especially since Sarah has her own commitments, and I didn't want her to sacrifice her activities just to help around the house. Eric has truly been a blessing since he arrived. Even though he's not the type to wear his emotions on his sleeve, his support has been invaluable. He's allowed me to feel a sense of relief and release that I desperately needed during this tumultuous time. I'm aware that Eric can't stay with us indefinitely, but his presence right now is something I'm incredibly grateful for. On the legal front, my lawyer and I have initiated the divorce proceedings. We filed the petition yesterday, prompted by the realization that Karen, now seemingly without options, had abandoned any intention of filing herself, likely hoping for reconciliation. She'll be officially notified of the divorce in the next few days, marking the start of what I anticipate to be a challenging process. The thought alone is overwhelming, and I can only imagine the emotional toll it will take as we proceed. Divorce was never a scenario I envisioned for myself, but it's the reality I'm faced with now. It's a horrible feeling, but there's just nothing else I can do anymore. At least I'll know that I did my very best to keep the marriage intact. And whatever is happening right now isn't my fault. It's hers. So I don't need to feel like crap about what happened. I'm also grateful that my kids are all grown up now, because I don't think I could have handled a custody battle alongside the divorce now. Update 2. Karen received the divorce papers today, and if the messages she's been sending are any indication, she didn't handle the news well. I haven't had the heart to block her number yet, as finding the mental resolve to completely sever ties has been difficult for me. However, I'm getting closer to making that decision. The messages she sent were harsh and filled with anger. She accused me of seeking revenge and blamed me for ruining her life, arguing that her affair was merely an attempt to find some excitement away from what she perceived as a dull and routine existence. She also made personal remarks about my appearance, pointing out that I'm nearing 50 and showing signs of aging, like my receding hairline, which to me is just a natural part of getting older. I've accepted my age and the physical changes that come with it. I may not frequent the gym as I used to, but I've maintained a relatively healthy lifestyle, especially considering my responsibilities as a father to nearly adult children. I believe it's normal and expected to look my age, and I don't see it as a negative reflection on my character or attractiveness. But if she wants me to look the same way as I did back when we got married in our early 20s, and that's going to be an issue. I don't think it's humanly possible to look the same age unless you're a celebrity and can afford to spend all your time and money on maintaining your looks throughout the years. It's clear that Karen sees Sam as more physically appealing than me, but that's exactly where the essence of marital fidelity and commitment is supposed to come into play. If she lacked the self-restraint to resist throwing herself at the first younger man who caught her eye, that failure is on her, not me. It's disappointing, to say the least, that she's attempting to deflect her own culpability onto me, suggesting that her infidelity was somehow justified by my shortcomings, and that it was my responsibility to change. This situation has been a harsh awakening for me. It's only now that I'm beginning to recognize all the warning signs I overlooked for over 2 decades, blinded by my love for Karen. But with the painful transition from wife to soon-to-be ex-wife, I'm finally seeing her true character. Reflecting on this, I can't help but feel foolish for not having seen it sooner. Despite everything, there's a part of me that still harbors feelings for Karen, a fact I find both humiliating and difficult to accept. It's this lingering affection that has so far prevented me from taking the final step to block her and sever all ties. Yet, I'm earnestly hoping to muster the courage to do so soon, as enduring her continuous blame and irrational behavior is becoming unbearable. I'm seeking the strength to move forward and leave this turmoil behind. The behavior Karen has shown throughout this ordeal is hard to categorize. I hesitate to label it as merely evil because it feels more complex than that. It's almost comically cruel in its nature. The latest development, however, adds a layer of irony to the situation that, while troubling, thankfully doesn't impact me directly. Olivia informed me a few hours ago about a new twist in the saga. Karen is now embroiled in an online feud with Sam. This came to light after Karen aired out her grievances in a public rant, accusing Sam of leading her on for 2 years only to reject her because he didn't see a future together. Reflecting on her actions, it seems remarkably short-sighted of her to have upended her life without first ensuring that Sam was on the same page regarding their relationship. Even from a standpoint of basic common sense, let alone fidelity, she should have sought clarity on his intentions before diving into this liaison. The drama escalated when several of her female coworkers responded to her post, revealing that they too had been involved with Sam. It appears he was far from exclusive, casting a shadow over any pretense of genuine affection he might have shown Karen. Witnessing these events unfold, I find myself reconsidering my stance on karma. The poetic justice of Karen's situation is undeniable, and it's hard not to see it as a direct consequence of her actions. In light of these revelations, both Olivia and I have decided to block Karen, distancing ourselves from the ongoing drama and toxicity. This decision, though difficult, marks an important step in moving forward and sparing ourselves from further pain and chaos. Karen's current predicament came to light through a cousin who's still connected with her on social media, as we haven't yet made our separation public to the extended family. However, Karen's online outburst seems to have inadvertently spread the news for us. I'm planning to inform my own family about the situation soon, but in the meantime, I'm admittedly finding a bit of guilty pleasure in observing the turmoil Karen has found herself in. The situation with Sam is astonishing. Despite my initial feelings of animosity towards him for his involvement with Karen, the current turn of events has shifted my perspective somewhat humorously. The idea of acknowledging his Achievements in the realm of office romance is a thought that crosses my mind, albeit in jest. This entire episode serves as a stark reminder of the consequences that come with deceit and the pursuit of fleeting pleasures at the expense of real, meaningful connections. As for me, I'm eagerly looking forward to finalizing the divorce and moving past this chapter of my life. Update 4. It's been over a month since I first shared my story, and we're now navigating the settlement phase of the divorce. My feelings towards Karen have drastically changed. Where there was once love, now there's indifference. During our meetings, she occasionally tries to engage with me, offering smiles and attempting conversation, but I make it a point to maintain my distance. The emotional detachment I've achieved is profound, underscoring the transformative journey I've undergone since this ordeal began. From what I've heard, she's now staying with a friend because she lost her job recently. I believe I won't have to pay her any money after we split up, mainly because she openly admitted to cheating on me on her Facebook page. She thought Sam would eventually want a serious relationship with her, but that didn't happen. I don't even have to show proof that she was unfaithful. She's done that for me by sharing everything online. My children and I are not talking to her at the moment. We're acting as if she doesn't exist. I understand this might not be the healthiest way to deal with things, but we'll consider dealing with our feelings about it all after some more time has passed. The situation is still too new and painful to talk about right now. However, I'm feeling a lot better than I did when I first shared my story here, and I'm confident things will continue to improve as time goes on. I'm planning to begin therapy soon, once the divorce process is a bit more settled. I think having someone professional to talk to will help me process everything and start to feel better about the future. Wife wanted open marriage after I started dating. She wants to add more rules. What would you do in my position? 2.5 years ago, my partner, let's call her Emma, who's 36 years old, came to me with a big question. She asked if we could have an open marriage. This basically means that we could date other people while still being married to each other. Emma made it seem like if I didn't agree, we might end up getting divorced, which sounded really scary to me, especially because we have 2 kids together. I really didn't want to split up our family, so after thinking it over, I said okay to her idea. But because this was a pretty big deal, I decided we needed some rules to make sure things didn't get too complicated. Here are the rules I came up with. 1. No inviting the people we date back to our house. It's important to keep our home just for us and the kids. 2. We shouldn't date people we both know, like friends, family, people we work with, or anyone who could make things awkward. 3. We agreed to keep this arrangement private, not telling everyone about it. For the next 2 years, I was super busy. I had a lot of work, and whenever I wasn't working, I wanted to spend all my time with our kids. I really didn't have any extra time to think about dating other people, so I didn't. I just focused on my job and being there for my kids. All right, so after Emma and I decided to have an open marriage, things felt a bit weird for me. The idea of Emma being with someone else and then coming back to our bed just didn't sit right with me. So I decided to move into a different room in our house. After that, our relationship changed a lot. We weren't really acting like a married couple anymore. We were more like teammates working together to take care of our kids. I really didn't want to hear anything about who Emma was seeing or what she was doing when it came to dating other people. During all this time, I was working super hard. But then, something awesome happened. I hit my big money goals. I paid off all my debts, saved enough money for my kids' college, and even started a fund to help them buy their first house someday. All of this meant I didn't need to work like crazy anymore. So I decided to cut way back on my hours, from 74 hours a week to just 30. Then, Emma had this idea to borrow money to buy another house and a new car, but I wasn't on board with getting into debt again, especially after just getting out of it. With my newfound free time, I decided to take a break and do something fun. I took my older son on a trip across the United States, just the two of us. It was a blast. When we got back, I worked on fixing up our house, transforming the basement into a cool hangout spot for myself, called a man cave. I also started exercising more, playing sports, and just living a healthier life overall. So, after all the work and saving, I finally took some time for myself and my family, doing things that made me happy and healthy. Let's simplify and make this part of the story relatable. After getting my life into a happier place, I thought it might be nice to start dating. But here's the thing. I'm not just looking for someone to hook up with. I wanted to find someone I could really get along with, someone who would be a friend first. Hang out, watch movies, enjoy concerts, and just have a good time together. And then, if things felt right, maybe more. So I met a few women, but one in particular, Jane, stood out. We just clicked. We both liked going to concerts, checking out art galleries, going to comic cons, and watching movies. It was a lot of fun. Meanwhile, Emma, my wife, suddenly became interested in my dating life. She wanted to talk about my dates, but I wasn't comfortable with that. Then things got a bit tense when I found out she was snooping through my phone. We ended up having a big argument over it. After all that drama, Emma suggested something new. She wanted to change how our open marriage worked. She was talking about fixing our marriage, like going to a counselor to talk things out. She also wanted us to start sleeping in the same room again and to try to have fun together, just like we used to. It seemed like Emma wanted to make some big changes to get our relationship back on track. So, after all the ups and downs, Emma came up with a new rule for our open marriage. She said that any relationships outside our marriage should only be about sex and nothing more. Plus, she wanted us to start talking about our other partners, which was a big change from before. I was pretty okay with how things were going, especially after starting to date Jane. I told Emma that I didn't have a problem if she wanted to date someone more seriously and go out and have fun, but I really didn't want to get into discussions about her dating life. Despite what I said, Emma stuck to her idea. Now, I'm caught in the middle, not sure what to do next. On one hand, I'm thinking about whether we should try to fix our marriage, maybe give her ideas a chance. On the other hand, part of me is wondering if it's time to just end things and hand over the divorce papers. I'm really torn and could use some advice on what to do. Now for the comments before reading the updates. You two didn't open your marriage. You ended your marriage 2.5 years ago to become roommates and co-parents. That's all the two of you are now. But neither of you seemed to care about that until you got a girlfriend. You didn't find a sex partner. You found a relationship that scares the hell out of your wife because she is reading the writing on the wall. Your wife is a hypocrite. You are emotionally numbed out. You agreed to open up the marriage upon her request, which was really a terrible idea. That would have been the time to do the work you both should have done to fix this shit. Marriages get stale from time to time. She needed to turn towards you, not put her emotional energy into new dig. Sorry about the crass language. I don't mean any disrespect, but you need a wake-up call. You do not have a marriage. It's a business arrangement now. So what's the point? Pretty sure you know the answer. Good luck, OP. And I hope you find what you're looking for. This isn't a marriage. You two are nothing other than partners in the business your family have been since she decided to open the marriage like that. Credit to you for the work that you've done. And I'm sure that having reliable support at home for the kids is why you were able to work 74 oddly specific hours a week. But this isn't a romantic partnership and seems to not have been for a while. Also, I totally understand the line you're drawn around not wanting to hear from your wife about it. She wanted to open the relationship. You let it happen. She wants to turn it into a shared kink. F that noise. Now for the update. My wife Emma and I decided to see a couples counselor to see if we could sort things out between us. We've been to 2 sessions so far. The person we're seeing for counseling is really good at their job, very focused and fair. But things haven't been going smoothly. Emma keeps asking for things that just don't seem fair to me. She wants to keep our marriage open, meaning we can see other people, but she says it should only be about sex. On top of that, she doesn't want to look for a job and expects us to buy a new house. It feels like no matter how we talk about it, she's stuck on wanting one or more of these things. During our last session, things got really tense. Emma actually threatened to get a divorce if things didn't go her way, and afterwards she complained that the counselor was taking my side. She thinks we should find a new counselor, but I believe the current one is just trying to be fair and help us find a middle ground. It's a tough situation, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to handle it. So after everything that's been going on, I decided to talk to a lawyer and begin the process of getting a divorce. Emma will be getting the official papers in just a few days. I've also decided to give her a couple of months to figure out how to start making her own money. Once that time is up, I'm planning to stop providing financial support to her. I also want to point out something important about my work situation. After Emma suggested we open our marriage, that's when I started working super long hours, about 74 hours a week. Before all this happened, my work week was more like 50 hours. I wasn't hanging out at bars or clubs. I helped around the house as much as I could, and I made sure I was home and available every other weekend. So, this step towards divorce wasn't taken lightly. It comes after a lot of thought and trying to balance things in our relationship. Update 2. Story 2. My mother tried to trick me, 26 female, into joining my sister, 31 female, for dinner after she tested me around her husband, 31 male. This is actually crazy and there's going to be lots of details, so please bear with me. My sister recently got married. It's been about 3 to 4 months. I didn't really see much of them after the wedding, honeymoon, and then back to work. But once a month, her family all gets together and my parents host a huge feast. Since this took place a week ago, it was for the month of August. During this dinner, my brother-in-law was being extremely weird towards me. He was complimenting my body, ignoring my sister, and just straight up acting so strange. It was completely unexpected for several reasons. One being his wife was sitting right next to me. Two, he has only been married for a few months. Also, he's just never spoken to me or about me like that before. I felt really uncomfortable, and I'm sure it transpired to the rest of the room because what the F, except it was weird because nobody was pointing anything out. I was extremely confused and wanted to leave. I left early, but when I got home, I just felt so icky. I don't even know how to describe it. I decided to message my sister and let her know his behavior made me feel uncomfortable. I told her that it was also concerning. He felt comfortable enough to say these things in front of my parents and brother. I explained that if she didn't feel comfortable being in the middle, I wouldn't mind explaining this to him myself. His behavior was so unnerving that I faced Time, my boyfriend, who was away for work in the United States. I told him it was weird, and how my brother-in-law's behavior towards me went from that of siblings to this horribly uncomfortable situation. He was pissed, rightfully so. My sister didn't respond to my text until the next day. She asked to meet up, so I did. I was expecting her to be upset and to have him apologize for what he said. Instead, she admits it was all a test. And I passed. I was confused, to say the least. What did she mean by a test and passed? Like, what's going on? Turns out that she had her husband do those things on purpose because she wanted to see how I would react if he said those things to me and meant them. My reaction and choice to message her afterwards told her that I could be trusted around him. I was offended, to say the least. Why would she think that I couldn't be trusted? Well, let me tell you that, in my opinion, not very valid reason for this lack of trust. My sister has been married before. She was 27 and the divorce was about 10 months into her marriage. Her ex was a psycho, to say the least. He had known me longer than he did my sister. I was the one who had introduced them. They got along well, eventually started dating, and looked like the healthiest and most romantic relationship to grace planet Earth. Except when they got married. During their marriage, I was staying with them because it was closer to commute to work. They had extra bedrooms and I would pay rent and cook and clean myself. My underwear, bra, and panties would often go missing. It started off small. I just assumed they got mixed up in my sister's laundry and it would turn up eventually. But it was happening more frequently to the point I was buying underwear almost weekly. I kept pressuring my sister to admit she was stealing my underwear, and she was adamant it wasn't her. I decided to just ignore it and go about my day. Something I hadn't even considered as an option was the real reason my former brother-in-law was stealing my underwear. I don't know. Nor do I want to know what he was doing with it when I found out. But I was so disgusted and confused. Someone I thought was my friend was actually just a perv. He admitted he had never really loved my sister and was just using her to get to me. I was just so creeped out and I pressed charges against him for his sickening behavior. I was able to get a restraining order and my sister divorced him almost instantly after finding out she used something traumatic that happened to me and flipped it to make it seem like I am the one that was untrustworthy. She claimed I must have strung him along for him to think like that. And this test was just to prove I wasn't doing it again. Safe to say, I was extremely hurt and angry by her response. So I told her to never speak or contact me again if that's what she really thought of me. My family found out for the most part, agreed with her behavior as crazy. But my mother stood by her actions and said my sister was just trying to protect herself from being hurt again. I told her if she had just been honest with me from the start, I wouldn't have been as bothered. There's a right way to approach things and a wrong way. This isn't just wrong. It's also crazy why this is so adamant. It's my life goal to hurt her. I didn't know that her ex was going to turn out like that. So why am I being punished? She claimed that I should have had some indication that he liked me, but he really made it seem like he was head over heels for my sister. How am I supposed to know what's going on in someone else's mind? Anyway, the family dinner was earlier for this month, as it was the most compatible date for everyone's schedules. Yesterday, I told my parents that expect me and did not show up with my sister and brother-in-law were going. It wasn't even because I refused to ever speak to her again. I had just said that because the situation was so fresh. I told my mother that I would apologize when I had cooled down a little. It was just difficult to face them when they made me feel like a horrible person for a situation that was out of my control. My mother assured me that my sister wouldn't attend, so I agreed to come. When I arrived, they were both there. It felt like an ambush, and it sort of was. My sister demanded. I apologized for my reaction because it was my own fault. It happened in the first place. I can't lie, I snapped. I told her she should remove my number and the title of being my sister, if she really felt that way. I just need advice because therapy isn't scheduled for another 2 weeks, and I feel like I just dreamt a soap opera storyline. I feel kind of bad because I do understand my sister had her trust broken completely by her ex, but I feel like that distrust shouldn't be aimed at me. But the person who actually caused it, and I was the one who introduced her to the a-hole in the first place. So I feel guilty for that already. But in failing to see how her schemes to manipulate me into thinking she's being wronged by her husband once again is just far too extreme. I want to apologize to her for one reason ever introducing that man to her. I really need her to see that I wasn't trying anything when her ex was stealing my underwear. I was just as in the dark as she was. How do I go about doing the above? Because I want to put this behind me and move on. I was just about healing from her former marriage, and now this one is also putting me in a very uncomfortable position with my sister, my brother-in-law, and my own mother. Any advice on how to tackle, apologize, getting my sister's trust back, and showing her that I truly just want what's best for her? P.S. Apologize for spelling grammar, mistakes. It's 2 a.m. and I usually sleep around 10 p.m. It's possible that parts of this won't make sense, so I'm more than happy to try and make things easier to understand the comments. I'm just so tired that my brain is working at 10% right now. Now for the update. Update. A lot has happened in the last couple of days. I've tried to read all the comments and taken everyone's advice. This has been the outcome. I lost a sister and a mother in 2 days. It's heartbreaking more than anything. I had to meet up with everyone. My boyfriend came with me, so I had support during the conversation. Honestly, it was so hard to look at any of them for the way that they treated me. I'm so thankful to everyone opening my eyes to the crazy behavior exhibited in the first part of this story in front of everyone. My mother admitted to knowing about the plans from the start. Sister confided in her, and she agreed it was a good idea. She supported her son-in-law openly harassing her daughter. I'm in complete shock, and it just hurts so much knowing she would condone this, considering she knew how much I was affected by the first husband. She knew I was having a difficult time in therapy. It took me a long time to trust people again after that, and I feel like once again my trust has been broken. I don't know how I'm ever going to trust anyone ever again. I'm really thankful my boyfriend was there to comfort me because it was so hard keeping my composure around them. My sister was not budging at all. She kept maintaining she was in the right. She said, the only reason I wouldn't apologize is because deep down I knew what her ex was like. She said that I just liked getting attention from him, knowing he was married to my sister. She also claimed I overreacted. And if it's acting, then it's not harassment. I told her she shouldn't expect any calls or attacks or just not to be contacted by me until I received the apology I deserve from both her and my brother-in-law. Speaking of, he was pretty silent through the whole thing, probably because my father threatened his life if he spoke bad about me. He did say that the only reason he did so was to placate my sister because she kept accusing him of ogling me. But still no apology from him. My mother. This one broke my heart the most. She told me I was over-exaggerate dating and that I should be happy to have passed my sister's test. She actually said the words, "We can all move on now." I was in complete honor, to be honest. How could she think that things would just go back to being normal after this? Asked why she was supporting such delusional behavior, she said it was because she loved my sister and wanted her to be happy. I asked her if she loved me as much as my sister. She said yes. She seemed hesitant, but I don't want to read too much into that. I told her I want an apology for her schemes to refuse, so I gave her the same conditions. I gave my sister and brother-in-law until I get an apology, as simply I'm not speaking to all three of them. As a result, I also probably have to go low contact with my brother and dad because they both live with my mother. I mean, I'll hang out with them outside and without the presence of my mother. But if she'll let them is the question. I know some of you have suggested spending time with my boyfriend's family on holidays and occasions. I think it was just some one person, but oh well, I haven't met my boyfriend's family before because they live in the United States. But after this situation, I've taken 2 weeks paid holiday for the end of this month, and he's taking me to meet them for the first time. I hope it goes well because they might be the only family I have right now. My therapy session has been moved to tomorrow because I requested an emergency appointment. Wish me luck. Anyway, my biggest thanks goes to all of you Redditors for helping me see the situation, for what it was, for your advice and compassion. And I'm really grateful. I don't think I would have been able to get through this on my own. It's likely I would have caved and apologized just for the pattern to repeat itself. Truly, thank you so much. Wishing you all the best. And I hope you know that your advice might just have saved me from my need to always please others. I'll look back on this moment, and any time I feel like putting someone else's feelings above my own comfort. Hope your hearts are filled with love and happiness. Layla. P.S. Again, apologies for spelling and grammar mistakes. It's past the bedtime, but I think I owed you all an update. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister out when I'm the only person in her family she lives close to and she has children? I, 31 female, have not spoken to my sister in 10 years after she had an affair with my ex. I was with my ex from the age of 15 until we were 20. My sister was 19 at the time, and the affair had been ongoing. Most likely they started the affair not that long after my sister turned 18. My ex was the same age as me. My ex proposed to me while we were together. My sister was helping with that and encouraged me to marry him before he proposed. This was so he would be around and they could keep sleeping together. We got engaged, and a few months later, my sister told me I could marry him because she was pregnant with his child. She tried to salvage the relationship with me and asked me to understand and not be mad at her. I told her she was disgusting and I would never forgive her. I also told her parents what she had done. I saw my sister once after their first child was born. A year or so after I had learned about the affair, she told me she missed me, and she wanted her daughter to know her aunt. She tried her best to get me to at least agree to a relationship with her daughter, but I told her it was not possible, and I was still not going to forgive her. And I told her not to talk to me again. My parents and extended family also stopped talking to her when she started dating him for real, and they only resumed contact after they broke up. They then supported her because of the kids. My parents couldn't bring themselves to turn their backs on their grandkids or to sever the relationship forever. I was fine with it because I do understand. But her having kids was not an incentive for me to repair things. I'm now happily married and a mom myself. A few weeks ago, my parents called and told me that my sister had been living 20 minutes for me for the last 2 years. They know that I don't want to talk about her, so until this point, they had not. She moved out of state for a job, and then she lost the job, and her landlord had told her she needed to be out in 60 days because he was repurposing the house without her original job, and with no support network here, she had to turn to them. She didn't want to pull her kids away from the place that they were used to now. And so my parents decided I should be the one to help. They told me if I could help by putting her in touch with people for a job and maybe another rental, it would be so amazing. They wanted me to step in before the 60 days was up. I refused to help and told them I will never do a single thing for her again. They pleaded with me to reconsider and told me to think about the kids. They asked me if I really hated my sister that much, and I said yes. I told her it would be bad enough to be the affair partner, but to encourage me to get engaged and help him plan it while they were cheating behind my back was such a low thing to do. I said the fact that she stayed long enough to have another child with him, and it also showed how little she really cared about me. They told me to be a better person than this in their whole